Welcome to the Tampa Native Show. Stay tuned now for the most entertaining 60 minutes from the studios at TBCN, Tampa Bay Community Network. Join your hosts, Mario Nunez and Steve Canella, as they celebrate growing up in Tampa. From Shakey's to Shock Armstrong, Braddock Street, and Buffalo Avenue, get ready to call in and tell us your stories, because sharing your memories has never been this much fun. The Tampa Native Show is brought to you by the Columbia Restaurant. And now, here's your hosts, Mario Nunez and Steve Canella.
Welcome back, everybody, to this. Let me turn down. I'm having tremendous feedback here. Technical difficulties right at the top of the show. Welcome back, everybody, to this, the 11th broadcast of the Tampa Native Show. I'm Mario Nunez alongside my broadcast partner,
Steve Canella.
And we're as excited as we could possibly be here with you again. We'd like to welcome those viewers that have been with us all season and say thank you so much for being out there. We're getting your emails. We're getting your phone messages. We appreciate you each and every week tuning in. And for those of you that may be tuning in for this, your first installment of the Tampa Native Show, welcome to you as well. Steve, how was your week?
Mario, was fantastic. Had a great time.
Good week?
Yeah, recovering from last week's show. We had a blast last week, didn't we?
Incredible time. For those of you that missed last week's show, and they are up on our on our social networking site page, you can see the replay of that show. We talked about theaters, those fabulous movie palaces of yesteryear, the Tampa, the Florida, the Palace, the Hillsborough Rocking Chair Theater, the Britain, and the Sulphur Spring and the Springs Theater, and it was a great show. We had record numbers of phone calls, and thank you for those of you that participated. Stevie, let me just digress for a moment and tell a little follow-up story to something that I didn't get a chance to tell the viewers last week when we were talking about, again, those theaters of yesteryear. When I was 15, we talked about this. It was circa 1973. Went to the Hillsborough Theater during the matinee and watched The Exorcist at the time, of course. And I don't know why, but after that movie, I had a thing for Linda Blair for a few weeks. But anyway, I was recuperating from a broken ankle at the time, and I was telling Steve that, I had a very difficult time getting out of the theater because I was on crutches and I was hobbled. I got to be honest with you, I certainly I slept with the light on in my room for months after that, and even more impactful that movie couldn't have been because I couldn't see that movie for the better part of about 35 years.
And Mario, the funny thing is, after leaving here last week and thinking of that story, picturing you trying to move as fast as you can on crutches out of the theater, I laughed the whole entire way home. I was just dying laughing. It was hilarious. Just picturing you on crutches trying to get out of the theater as quick as you could.
It was not good. It was not a good day for me.
Still laughing.
And it was 35 years later until I could see the movie. And when I did finally get to see it, this has been a good 6-8 months ago. I happened upon it on TV, and I said it was late. It was about 9 o'clock at night. I heard the theme song, the opening music. I sat up on the couch and I said, you know what? I'm going to watch it. It's time that I put on the daddy pants and I watched this movie. I mean, I'm in my 50s already. It should be time. And I was good. I was solid for about the first 35, 40 minutes. And then there was this one scene in particular when, she comes flying, the bear comes flying down the stairs backwards. I lost it. I turned it off. I haven't seen it again in its entirety. So that was last week's show, those wonderful theaters of yesteryear here growing up in Tampa. We also have another announcement to make, and we need this is a viewer participation
Absolutely.
announcement. Stevie, 2 weeks ago when we did our Halloween show, we had two fellows sit in for us. That would be Dr. Paul Bearer and Groucho Marx.
And they were great, weren't they?
I thought they did a pretty good job, to be honest with you.
And they got along really well together, too.
They got along well, good banter, great reviews. We've got those emails at home as well. And we're thinking about reprising that episode because, quite honestly, for our Thanksgiving show, Steve and I would like to take a little bit of a break. If that's the case, we're going to solicit. Again, we're working with their agents. For those of you that missed the show last week, we made this declaration. We're working with Groucho's agent. We're working with Dr. Paul's agent. They're being a little bit reluctant. They're asking for transportation to and from the studio. They're asking for special treats in the green room. And, of course, they want their own valet.
They're very demanding, aren't they?
Well, we would like to hear from the audience. If you, the audience, would like to see Dr. Paul and Groucho come back and host that Thanksgiving show, which I think could be potentially pretty good, let us know. Just an email, yes, thumbs up, thumbs down, yes, no. We'd like to hear from you. This week's topic, Stevie. This week's topic, as you can see, there's the flag behind us here, and our desk is adorned with all those artifacts from military service. This week's special presentation of the Tampa Native Show has everything to do with our Veterans Day celebration, which, of course, tomorrow we're going to be celebrating Veterans Day. Stevie, tell them a little bit about what we've been discussing this week on the show.
Well, Marty, this by the way, this is really truly a special Tampa Native show tonight in honor of our military veterans. And thanks for tuning in, by the way. And also, we want to hear from you tonight too. So feel free to call in as we display our pictures of the. You'll see quite a few pictures tonight on the screen behind us. So we want to hear your stories and your family's military stories as well. So we're just dying to hear those. So call in. Jeff, our producer, will be flashing that number on the screen pretty soon. But just so you know right away, it's 813-254-7820. And get those phones ready to call in. We'd love to hear from you. But go ahead, Mario.
I was going to say that when we discussed having a special Veterans Day show, we put it out there to all of our viewers. And within a day, we had pictures coming in with stories to go along with them. Tampa has a very long and proud tradition of military service. And a lot of our fathers and grandfathers served as far back as, of course, World War II, probably some World War I veterans in there, World War II certainly, and through the Korean War and again through Vietnam and even through some of the most recent conflicts. But the pictures that we have, the stories that we have are very good, very heartwarming, very touching.
Yeah.
And we're going to be soliciting for your phone calls as well. Tonight when we take your call, we're going to ask you, like we always do, to give us your name, tell us where you're calling from, and sometime before you hang up the phone, we want to ask you to do something a little bit different tonight for those of you that have been watching this show every week. We want to ask you to make sure to give us your lucky Bolita drawing number, because what we're going to do is the number from 0 to 75. Steve this week went out. Tell them what you did, Steve.
Well, what did I do, Mario?
Well, Steve contacted Miss Edie Strickland, and Edie Strickland, you're out there watching, and she's one of our loyal viewers. She graciously donated a couple of tickets to an event coming up this Saturday with the West Tampa Women's Club. It's going to be at the Post 248 Hall, and if you could see, I have the 2 tickets here. Well, actually, I don't. I should. But Steve left them in the car before he got into the studio. We only discovered it moments before we went on the air. But give us your number. It's somewhere between 0 and 75. We'll have the drawing before the night's out, and you'll be the lucky winner of those 2 tickets.
And by the way, I've done so many things this week, I just can't keep track of them all. But
Steve, you've done a lot, including today. Spent a lot of time at the shop getting your car fixed.
That was a
but we're going to pass the hat, by the way, for Steve a little bit later on, because the car repair was quite expensive. I understand.
I was there about 4 hours, so it was half the day.
Usually when we start our show, we've already got a caller on the line. Caller, we see you there, stand by. Usually when we start our show, we talk a little bit about our own experiences, depending on that particular topic of the week. Well, since today our show is dedicated to military service, Steve and I will tell you our stories, and then we'll go ahead and open up the phone lines and take those calls. Stevie, can I go first?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
We talked about this earlier, Steve and I, and neither one of us, unfortunately, went into the military after high school and during the college years. We went a different route. But reflecting on all of that now, had I to do over again, and those of you that know me personally know what I do for a living, my day job. I work with the airlines. I'm a flight attendant, professional flight attendant for the last 26 years. I think, you know what, I probably would have, if somebody had whispered in my ears 26 years ago and said, hey, why don't you go into the military service, maybe the Air Force, and try to navigate the channels, because I think it would be ultimately the coolest job in the world to be a flight attendant on Air Force One, to serve the country by serving your president, being able to travel. There's probably no safer airplane in the sky than Air Force One, and to be able to do that for a 20 or 30-year career, that would be something that I think would be an outstanding path to take. Maybe the next go around. But Stevie?
Well,
tell us your story.
Absolutely. Well, like Mario, I didn't join the military myself either, but I always regret not doing that, though. My father, however, he was in the military for 4 years right out of high school. He graduated in 1951 from Hillsborough High School. Right after that, he went to the Air Force. And for the rest of his life, he's no longer with us now, but the rest of his life, he always talked about his experiences during those 4 years in the military and how much it benefited him throughout the years. And basically, he served overseas. It was not non-combat at the time, but he was in Europe. He saw pretty much every country in Europe. And he had just wonderful stories to tell, great connections he made too. And he made lifelong friends to those his colleagues in the military too. So for his whole life, he made connections with them and talked to them over the years, and they visited each other. They would fly down to Tampa and visit. But he had other benefits, too, of joining the military, too. He just not only seeing the world, but also he had the GI Bill. You know, we had 4 kids to take care of and raise, and that helped tremendously with the education. He went to University of Tampa, all, you know, under the GI Bill. Also, the first house, which was purchased over by Jesuit High School on Lincoln Avenue, that was done through the VA loan, which was nothing down, zero down loan, too. So the benefit tremendously was good to my father as well. But it was one of those things that he just thoroughly enjoyed. I think it helped set him a framework for the rest of his life, too, and a discipline as well, and truly enjoyable. In fact, I have some of his medals here, too. It's probably hard to see from here, but you can see them. One of them here actually says, awarded for distinguished service in protecting the lives of children. And this would have been in the range of 1952, as I mentioned earlier, to 1956. But just a tremendous medal here. And I've got a couple little of his medallions here as well in his flags. But anyway, just it's been very good to my father. And again, I wish I had done the same thing as he did. Really enjoyable.
Thanks for sharing that, Steve. Thanks for sharing. You know, it wasn't necessarily coming out of high school when we came out of high school. The Vietnam War had just finished, and it wasn't necessarily something that you were chomping at the bit, so to speak, to do. So, you know, by the time we were on our career paths and doing different things. But tonight we're here to honor those veterans. And look at that photograph right there. Isn't that cool? That's a B-26 Marauder. And that's pretty sharp, right? That's an aerial view of. We got a special story to tell about that airplane in just a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and open up the lines here. We had a caller on. Caller, if you're watching the show at home, we must have just lost you. Please call back. The 2 lines are open. We promise to take your call right now. Story time for Steve and Mario is officially over, and now it's time to turn it over to our viewers and our audience. So please do feel free to call right back, and so we can pick up the phone and talk to you. There is a graphic, there's a photograph, Jeffrey, that if you want to, while our callers are calling back, if you want to put up that next graphic, we'll be happy to talk about that. And do you know which one it is? There it is. That's a wonderful picture. Our caller's on the line. Let's go ahead and take the call, and I'll be right back to talk about that picture in just a minute.
Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hey, it's Stephen Mario. It's Edie.
Oh, hey.
Hey, Edie. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, darling. Listen, the dance is at the Letter Carriers.
It's at the Letter Carriers. Okay, Edie, thank you for setting us straight on that, because, you know, Steve Areno, se le olvidó, the tickets are in the car, what can I tell you? You know, we had a lot on our mind today, and I didn't remind him until 2 minutes we sat here, and Steve, you got the tickets? He goes, oh, Mario, they're in the car.
Yes, thanks for calling in, Edie. And,
no problem.
yeah.
We look forward to seeing you out there.
Thank you, honey. We've got some special pictures coming up shortly. Those pictures that you sent us this week. And do you want to tell us your daddy's story now while we've got you on the line?
No. You can go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah, well, he was just one of the original paratroopers in the 101st Airborne.
it's a great story, too.
Great story. Your pop, that was some pretty heady work that he was doing back then.
Yes, he was. He was at the Battle of the Bulge.
That's
Pretty impressive.
Yep. Got frostbite feet.
Wow.
And hated the song White Christmas for all of his life because they flew over playing White Christmas while they were freezing.
Right, while they were out, were they outside, unprotected at the time?
Yes, they were out in foxholes.
In the elements, yeah. Well, just to have been a paratrooper alone back then was pretty brave of him. And from what you were telling us, your pop was not a real big guy, no? 5'4"?
5'3".
5'3".
Yeah, 5'3".
Yeah, we're going to show his picture in a few minutes, and it's an unbelievable picture. We're so happy that you sent that to us. And we've got the little bio. We'll read that as well, Edie. Thank you so much for calling.
Right.
Thanks for setting the record straight, too.
And thanks for helping us with the information on the event this weekend. Thank you.
No problem.
Talk to you again. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Mario looks like the calls are coming in here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take the next one.
Let's do that. Go ahead. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, Butch from Land O'Lakes.
Hey, Butch from Land O'Lakes. If you'll bear with me for just a minute, and you know what? We didn't get Edie's lucky number. Edie, call us back. And tell us your lucky number, or email us, but it's probably quicker. Butch, if you'll hang in there for just a minute, you see that picture that's on your screen. Let me read a little bit about that picture. That picture that you see there, ladies and gentlemen, is a gentleman by the name of Victor Julian Collazo. And I know him pretty well because That's my uncle. And the lady with him there is my aunt. That's my father's sister. Victor served, better known as Skip Collazo, for all of you that have been in Tampa for the better part of 50, 60 years. Skip served in the Army during World War II. And here again in this photo is my Aunt Emily, my tia Emily. And this picture we figured is probably taken somewhere in the fall of 1944 or perhaps the spring of 1945 when Theo Skip was home on leave. He served in Guam and in New Guinea, and while he was in service to his country, contacted malaria. Was healthy, was brought back to health after that, honorable discharge, and then he moved from New York to settle here in Tampa with his daughter Julie at the time. Of course, he had 3 more daughters, my cousins. They were all raised here in Tampa. Not pictured here also, and carrying on the proud tradition of service to their country, is Anthony Garcia, which is Skippy's grandson and Denise's son, who is now serving currently in the Army at Fort Drum, New York. Butch, that's your grandfather right there. What do you say?
Yes, it is. I was just watching the show, and I was like, wow, that's my grandfather and my grandmother.
Absolutely. And Thea, hopefully she's at home right now watching. Thea, there you are.
Hey, nice-looking people there.
Great-looking couple, very young. And of course, we heard all the stories of Theo Skip's time in the service. And, what a wonderful guy, huh?
Oh, yeah. He was a tremendous man, and we miss him dearly.
To this day. Butch, before I let you go, I've got to ask you, what's your lucky number?
I'm going to go with number 8.
Okay, number 8. We're going to go with Butch's lucky number 8. Hey, buddy, thank you so much for calling in.
Friday, man. Y'all keep up with the good work.
Thank you, Butch. Thanks for always being there for us. We appreciate it.
All right, buddy.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Thank you. We have a little technical. Yeah, Steve, you can handle that there.
Okay.
If we can call up the next photograph, Jeffrey, while we're waiting for our next caller to dial in.
Absolutely.
We will commence. Oh, look at that picture right there.
This is great. Okay.
Steve, tell us a little bit about that picture.
Yeah, this is from Chelsea, Virginia Shaw. She goes by Virginia as well. This picture is her dad, and she wrote on the email, here are some pics of my brother, my dad, grandfather, all who served in the military, all Tampa natives. Thanks, Chelsea Shaw. But anyway, this picture here, her dad, Bradley Truby Shaw Jr., U.S. Army, Japan. What a great picture that is.
Steve, Jeff, if you can get us out of here for just a second so we can kind of get a good feel for that picture. That's a great shot. And we've got many, many more just like this that we're going to be showing throughout the rest of the show.
And that picture was in Japan, too.
That picture's in Japan, yeah. That's And the next photograph.
There's another one right after that, Jeff.
And it's
also Chelsea's, there you go.
And it says, this is 3 generations of veterans. My grandfather, Bradley Truby Shaw Sr., U.S. Army, Fort Homer Hesterly, so he was here in Tampa during his service to the country. My dad, Bradley Truby Shaw Jr., and my brother, U.S. Marine Corps, all Tampa natives. My grandfather and father have passed, and my brother still lives in Tampa. This pic was taken at Paris Island on a visit to my brother when he finished boot camp. There's 3 generations of U.S. Marines right there. Pretty good stuff.
Great picture. That's the whole...
Actually, two
sure.
Army and 1 Marine.
Yeah.
2 U.S. Army, 1, 3 generations. That's
Chelsea,
a great picture.
great
Chelsea,
picture.
if you're out there watching the show, Chelsea, why don't you call in and tell us a little bit more about those 3 gentlemen that you know pretty well in that photograph.
Right. And thanks for sending those pictures in, too. Those are great.
And you can give us your lucky number while you're calling in.
Yeah, please do.
That is a wonderful, wonderful photograph.
Just a reminder, too, of course, it's up on your screen now. Call in, 254-7820. Also, feel free to send an email to show@tampanatives.com. We'll be glad to read your email over the air. And so we got a call already here.
Yeah, we do.
Sure,
let's see who that is. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name, where you're calling from, and if you're listening to your TV, turn that TV down and talk to us on the telephone.
Hi, my name's Chris Heckler. I'm here in Tampa.
Hi, Chris.
Chris, can you turn down? There you go. Turn down your TV, darling, and talk to us.
I'm walking into another room.
That's better. Thank you.
I'm Edie's cousin.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
Great.
Do you know Edie's? Do you know Edie's lucky number by chance? Did she call you and say, "Chris, call him and tell him"?
No, I'm afraid not.
Okay.
But I wanted to contribute to the show because
Please.
I've been here. I was born in Missouri, but I was raised here. They brought me here when I was 4 months old, so I guess I'm a Tampa native.
Absolutely, you are.
definitely
And you know what? Before you tell us your military-related story, let me use you as an example, Chris, if I can. because a lot of people are still kind of confused
point,
out there.
Mario.
Isn't that right,
That's
Stevie?
exactly right.
There's still a little confusion out there because the name of the show and the name of the group is the Tampa Natives. However, the show and the group is mostly about having grown up here. So, because we post that argument all the time. Let's say that the opposite is true. Let's say you were born here in Tampa, but you moved to Sydney, Australia. You're technically a Tampa native, but not really. In your case, Chris, do you qualify as a Tampa native?
Oh, I sure do.
Absolutely. Tell us your story, darling.
Well, my story is of my mother and father. My father was stationed at Drew Field.
Okay.
And he was from Missouri, so he came down here in the service. He was in the Army Air Corps. And my mother started working at the base exchange. And they met, and they fell in love, and they got married. His first post was after they got married, was in South Carolina. So they really got married there in South Carolina. And I think that was the idea. I saw their pictures when they got married, and he was in his uniform, and it looked so beautiful that they fell in love there at Drew Park. Well, Drew Field at the time.
Sure.
But I drive through Drew Park now, and I'm going, well, I remember the hangar was there, and the base exchange was there, and I'm going, gee, I'm old.
Well, there's still some vehicles that are parked just south of Hillsborough, and there's some buildings there that still look kind of like barracks, and I'm sure they're left over from that time period.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I remember that just off of West Shore, there used to be the base commander's home. So that tells you how long ago I've been around.
Yeah, I think you certainly qualify, Chris, for Tampa Native status. As a matter of fact, you might be in a special category of Tampa Native. I'm not sure. We'll have to do some research on that.
Very true.
Is this the first time you get to watch our show?
Yes, it is. And
Good.
it's thanks to Edie, because she knows that, I miss the old neighborhood a great deal. I live out in town and country now, but I miss the old neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
I remember walking all around Main Street and Howard Avenue, and
Well, let me ask you, Chris. Let me ask you, because we're going to be showing a photograph and an article later in the a little bit later in the show, talking about a B. I think it was a B-26. It could have been a
B-17.
B-17. Thank you, Steve, for correcting me. B-17 that actually crashed in West Tampa. Were you here at the time?
no, I'm afraid not.
Okay, so a little bit before you.
Yeah.
A little bit before
A
you.
bit before me.
It was 1944, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And we have that article, and we're going to show that in just a little while. But, Tampa has always been very active, in its connection with the U.S. military. Certainly MacDill Air Force Base now is the command center for all overseas operations. But even before that, where Tampa Airport is now, used to be the Drew Field you're referring to.
Yes.
Before there was MacDill. And there was also an airstrip north of Busch Gardens, in the Busch Gardens area, which was I think a touch and go practice runway for bombers and for fighters alike. So Henderson Field, exactly right. So we have a pretty long and storied tradition as far as our connection to the military. We're going to ask a favor of you, Chris, to give us your lucky number 0 to 75, darling.
46.
Very good. And we want to ask one more favor of you. Do us a favor and call Edie and tell her, oh yeah, those guys on that show are terrific, and we need your lucky number.
Okay, I'll get a hold of
And here's your personal invitation to watch us every week, because you really have missed some pretty exciting shows. And for somebody that misses the old neighborhood and the old stories, I think this is the show for you.
Now that I've found you, I'm going to be watching you.
Thank you, honey. Thank you so much.
And also be sure to watch us online too, and we'll.
You watch you online.
You can see the shows that you missed, Chris. If you're familiar with that networking, that social networking site, you can go to that social networking site. We have a special dedicated page called the Tampa Natives page, Tampa Native Show. Tampa Native Show, and all of our shows, due to the wonderful expertise of our producer Jeff Haynes, are all uploaded there. So you can go back. We had a show with Richard Gonsmart. We had a show with Lou Pinella. So I think and we had a show with Groucho Marx and Dr. Paul Bearer. I think you would enjoy watching those.
talking about Lou, my mother used to babysit him.
Well,
Oh, that would have been a good phone
that
call.
would have been a great.
That
Now
would have been
listen, word on the street is between you and me and Steve, and nobody else. Lou is going to do another show with us in the spring. He promised us he'd come back. So you make sure that when we do that show, you call in and tell that story.
Okay, I
Yes,
will.
that'd be
Thank
great.
you, Chris.
That'd be
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
great. We got an email from Joseph Abin.
Please, there's Joe Abin.
Abin, and Joe is one of our loyal fans here, and he writes, "Great show, very much enjoying this special Veterans Day show. My lucky number is 3." Joe, thanks for the email, and glad you sent in your number, by the way, too. So we got Joe's number, 3?
Thank you, Joseph. Yep, we got that number written down there. Thank you so much, Joe, for that. While we have a minute, let's read another email. If you want to go ahead and change that graphic for us now, Jeffrey, and bring up the next photograph. Steve, I believe this one is yours. Let's
Is
see.
this Tony Gonzalez?
It is.
Okay. This email is Tony Gonzalez, another military family, as you can see. And here are pictures of me, my brothers, and my son and son-in-law. We have served from World War II through Iraq Freedom. My son and son-in-law are still serving. My brother Al and I are retired. Enjoy your show. Keep them coming. Tony, thanks so much, and we appreciate your family's dedication and service. Definitely. So thanks for sending.
Isn't that a wonderful picture? I mean, that's a whole lot of military experience there. Tony, if you're out there watching us, and we hope that you are, give us a call and tell us maybe a little bit more about that photograph. And thank you so much for sending that to us.
that's great.
We've got no less than 12, 13 photographs to go, and wow, look at the lines lighting up now.
Look at this.
Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
I'm Judy from Temple Terrace.
Hi,
Hi,
Judy
Judy.
from Temple Terrace. I think you've called us before.
I did.
Hi, Judy. I remember you.
I graduated from Hillsborough in 1958.
There you go. Okay, that was a good
I wanted
year.
to tell you a little story about my uncle who was in the Navy.
Please.
He's Jack, and he was on a subchaser, and the subchasers were built in Texas, and they were all wooden. And they were about 140 feet long and carried a crew of about 45.
Wow.
And when you see those pictures of them ejecting those barrels of explosives off the ship, you would think, this is a huge ship with lots of weight to it. And he was in the Pacific. And in many of the battles, the admirals couldn't get close enough to the islands to sort of direct the firing of the guns and all. So they would use the subchasers because their draft was so shallow
Oh, nice.
and closer to shore.
Of course, and those barrels that they were pushing off were basically depth charges.
Yeah, depth charge.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's great. That's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, it's really interesting. He won't talk about it too much because of the. They went through a lot because
Right.
the Japanese Zeros would come down between the ships and the convoy, and he was young. He was.
We have a lot. What we're finding out, Judy, is that the gentlemen that came back, who are young men, in some cases boys still, 19, 20, 21, especially during that time, they saw so much and went through so much, and a lot of them didn't talk too much when they came back.
Right.
So we're finding that out now, that they're if we don't pry those stories out from wherever they're locked away, they go away with them.
Right. He's going to be 89 in February. He's still around. He was raised here in Tampa and taught at Brandon High School.
Oh, well, you give
What a
them
great history.
our love and our
definitely.
blessing, and you tell them that we're so happy that he's still kicking, and to tell you more about that stuff.
Oh, I will. I try. I try to get it out of him, but it's very difficult.
Try a glass of wine, Judy.
Yeah, his father mustered out of the Spanish-American War here in Tampa.
Oh, wow, wow.
What a
There's
history,
a
huh?
little history for you.
There was a big camp here,
Sure, of
and it was
course.
in the late 1800s.
Absolutely.
And so, and we did have there were bunkers out where Busch Gardens is. Most of the runway's gone now.
Right.
They've
Henderson
built
Field.
over it. But you used to be able to see bunkers out there too.
Oh, Judy, that is
amazing story.
that's a great
That's-
story.
that's
Now the show is kicking off and
And
running
those
full
are
gear.
Quonset huts in Drew Park.
Okay. I was wondering what that was, because you can still go by there and see the Jeeps out there, and you can
Yeah.
see the barracks looking kind of
Metallic.
the buildings. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they are. Well, thank you so much.
Judy, give us your number before you go away.
29.
29.
Okay, good.
Judy, thank you. Call us back, would you?
Thank you.
We
Thanks for the call,
appreciate
Judy.
it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye now. That's good stuff. Let's go right to the next caller. Caller.
Go ahead. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
This is Big Mike from Orlando.
Hey, Big
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good, man. You know what? This is a show that means a lot to me because I got an uncle, Milton Perez, actually lives in West Tampa, but I grew up in Ybor City by Huelva, and he went away in the draft to Vietnam, and so many memories, so many things. You know, he was always my idol, and to this day still is. He was stricken with malaria in Vietnam, and it was very, very tough. We all worried about him so much. He means so much to me, and just something to all the veterans. And I'm just looking forward to seeing him at Noche Buena. Everything turned out good, you know, thank God.
And if there's any way you can get down here a little bit earlier than that, Mike, on the 4th, you know, we're having that luncheon at the Columbia on the 4th.
That's right.
And I'd love to do that. I'll tell you what.
If you can, we'd love to see you there.
Milton Perez lives in West Tampa on Leroy Street.
Oh, yeah.
He's watching. I called them up and I said, listen,
great.
I just want to tell you how much I love you, idolize you, what a great service you did for the country. And for me, my God, he would send me like, of course, he would send me like an Army uniform, but it was always too small for me. Never told me. I still got that to this day. Can you imagine that?
Well, you're Big Mike. That's why it was too small for you. Of course.
You know, I couldn't grow into it.
Wow.
You know, those Vietnamese people over there, they're very small.
Bajito, little guys. It probably would have fit me because I'm a little guy, pero. Mike, what's your favorite? What's your lucky lotto number?
Oh, my God. Here we go. I'm 23.
23.
My wife's 25. My wife's 54. No, I'm
23, 23.
23 years old.
Thank you, Mike. I owe you a phone call. We'll talk tomorrow.
All right, you got it.
And
Thanks,
thank you
Mike.
so much for calling with that memory.
I love you guys.
Love
Bye.
you too. Thank you. That was great.
What a great story.
Woo, goosebump time. Goosebump time. I get them every week. And there, Mike, you're responsible this week for the goosebumps.
That was
It's a great story.
Goosebump territory.
Here come the phone calls.
Caller, hi, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, this is Jerry Cantor. I used to have a show there.
Hey,
Hi, Jerry.
Cantor.
How are you?
How are you?
All right, listen, you know, I personally called the White House in 1984,
Okay.
or 1983, when the U.S. Embassy was bombed
Okay.
in Lebanon because of a new superpower.
Okay.
The United States government has the medical technology to create a top-secret test tube baby genius through artificial insemination.
All right.
And I called the White House at 2 o'clock in the morning, demanding to speak to Ronald Reagan, identifying myself as Superman. They traced the call,
Uh-oh.
subliminally hypnotized me,
Uh-oh.
programmed my life. I called back at 6 a.m. when I woke up and spoke to a senator for 82 minutes, firmly convinced that I'm Superman.
This sounds like a scene from Manchurian Candidate.
It does.
Jerry, listen, I got to get your secret lotto number before
I know.
you go because...
Oh, it came out, the other day it came out 123, my birthday,
Okay.
and my brother Gary's number 7.
You want to go with 7? Because it's got to be 0 to 75.
Right.
We only have
Letters in
75
the
balls.
alphabet translate to the numbers.
Okay.
And 16, my brother Paul.
What do we put you down for?
So it came out 123, 716 last, I think on the 2nd, and it paid 101,000. There were 2 winners.
Well, so we put you down for, should we add 1, 2, 3, 7 and whatever that number comes out to?
And 16.
And 60,
Okay.
okay,
Okay,
we'll
let's
get
do
you down. 1, 2, 3, that's 6. 7 is
Came out
13 and 16.
about a year and a half ago when I was working for Sunoco. I played all the channels in Tampa, 3, 8, 10, 13, and 19, and I played another Fantasy 5, 3, 8, 10, 13, and 20, and it came out about 3 weeks after I played it, 3, 8, 10, 13, and 19.
I got you
The
down.
lottery is fixed.
I got you down for 36, Jerry. Thank you so much for sharing that memory with us, and call back anytime.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Oh, yeah, we got communication with Edie Strickland finally.
Thank you, Edie.
Thanks, Edie. Her lucky number is 14.
Okay, 14. Thank you so much for
Okay, great.
completing that set. That was a most interesting call from Jerry Cantor, who used to have a show here. Jerry, that was so far the most interesting call of the year for us.
That definitely was.
Yeah, that's all I can say about that. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name, where you're calling from, and tell us you're not Jerry Cantor.
Joe Roman from Tampa, Florida.
Hi, Joe.
Joe, I know you.
How you doing, my friend?
Good.
So good for you to call. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm wondering, doesn't anybody out there have a story on the Vila brothers, our West Tampa heroes, all 5 brothers?
All 5
That's a
brothers,
good
of
story.
course. Well, if you want to share that with us,
Yeah,
Joe,
please do.
Please.
Well, we know we got Hector Vila,
Okay.
and he was Marine Corps. His brothers served in Guadalcanal, and there were one beautiful family where the mom swore that she would never eat bread again until her sons came home.
Wow.
And all of them came home in good shape and God blessed. And for the bakers, she ate a lot of bread after that.
Seguro que sí. Can you imagine?
No, it's hard to imagine that.
She went on
something special.
That's a great story. No, they did. I know the newspaper here, the media covered the Villa brothers about 3 or 4 years ago. There was a nice piece in the Tampa Tribune about that.
They dedicated the park behind Fort Homer Hesterly.
It used to be West Tampa Pines or West Tampa Heights, I believe, West Pines maybe, and now it's
correct, to Villa Park.
Villa Park.
And by coincidence, the street that goes by the side of it is named after the Villa brothers' mothers as well.
Oh, that is an incredible story, and thank you for sharing that because that's the story that needed to be told tonight. Joe, your lucky lotto number tonight?
12.
12.
And Joe, I don't want to digress too much here, but Joe and I go back a ways. We both worked in the brewing industry years ago.
Oh yes,
many years ago.
When Sam invaded Al Lopez Field, he was so drunk he ran his boat up along the shore, and they took him away with machine guns in a jeep.
Wow. Good.
That's a great story too.
He was drinking beer 24/7. The Schlitz and the Anheuser-Busch breweries, we had a beautiful, beautiful time here in Tampa. Maybe one day we can talk about them.
Thank you, Joe. That's going to be for the next season for sure. Thank you for your call, and please call back anytime.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, sir. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Okay. All right, before we take the next caller, let's go ahead and roll that next picture up there. Jeffrey, if you will, and I'll read this one, Stevie, because I think I know which one's coming up. There you go. This picture here is sent to us from Olivia and Roland Trevino. It says, please see the attached military photo of my father, Anthony Tony Planes. My father was drafted into the Army in 1941 and served in World War II. He was stationed in Calcutta, India for a year. This photo was taken in New York City when Tony was 19 years old, along with his cousin, Manny Mendoza. Tony was born in New York City and moved his family from New York City. Forgive me. Tony was born in Ybor City, there's your Tampa native, and he moved his family to New York City in 1934. Thank you for honoring our military veterans. They are to be commended for their service and their duty to this country, and I know this gentleman personally as well because this is one of my father's cousins. This is a family member, as well as that young man there, that little boy in the picture. The Planes family would come back from New York and settle ultimately in the Sarasota area, but they never lost their Tampa roots, as the rest of their family, myself and my family included, stayed here in Tampa. So that is from Olivia and Roland Trevino. Thank you so much, Olivia, for sending that picture in. Can we show the next picture as well?
Now this picture here, this is from one of our loyal fans also, Rick T. Parnell. And he writes, this is my dad, Charles Parnell, who was a Marine in 1945, posing with my grandmother and granddaddy. His brother, my Uncle Lee, was a much more decorated Marine who flew missions with Ted Williams and knew John Glenn, who I was able to meet when I was quite young at my grandmother's store. That's a fascinating story.
And Rick T. Parnell, who is one of our most loyal viewers, and we got to shout this out every week because Ricky makes every effort to stay up late, and there's a 3-hour time difference because he's in Brazil. So if you don't think this show has some tremendous range, he is in Brazil watching us, and hopefully he's awake watching us now. If not, he's going to have to catch it on the replay.
Tampa Native in Brazil.
Tampa Native in Brazil. The next picture, we'll go real quickly to the next 2 pictures, actually, and then we'll get to our phone lines once again. This picture is from Don Pampel, and Don says, picture number 1, that's my daddy, George W. Sexton, Navy Seabee, taken in 1952 in California. That's a pretty cool picture. The next picture, which I don't think we have, is his unit in Korea, but we do have one other picture. I love that picture. Colorized, it looks like that was hand painted. That's a terrific picture. United States Navy. And the next picture, if you'll put the next picture up there, this is also from Don Pampel. Okay, the second picture says, this is my daddy's unit, CBMU 101, the first unit in Korea to set up airstrips for incoming troops. Daddy was born June 16, 1932, and served in Korea. He was wounded there as well. He was proud to be a Navy Seabee. He passed on June 22nd, 1999. And that's from Don Pampel. The next photograph, Jeffrey, and we'll go to the phones, if you could.
This is also from Don Pampel. And this, she writes, my son Cameron Donovan. He will be 30 on the 17th of this month. And by the way, Cameron, happy birthday in advance. And thank you for your service, by the way. And he is an Army combat medic stationed in Utah at this time. He has been in the Army since June of 2000. This is Cameron's official Army picture. I think it is great. You are doing a show to honor our veterans. Thank you so much, Mario and Steve. Don Sexton Pampel. And Don, thank you very much for seeing those photos in for us, too.
Thank you, Don. We'll go to the next caller, and then we'll come right back to our photos. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hey, this is Tony Gonzalez.
Hey, Tony. Thanks for calling in.
Yes, thank you. And Tony had that picture a little bit earlier, Jeff. If we can go back maybe and look at that picture.
I can tell you, it's the third one that we showed
right,
tonight.
That's it, the collage.
The collage with the five pictures, the collage, Tony Gonzalez.
There it is.
There it is. Tony, tell us real quick about that picture.
Hey, the first picture is my oldest brother.
Okay.
I was like 3 years old when he went to World War II.
That's upper left-hand corner, correct?
And he was a combat engineer.
Okay.
Then the middle picture is my middle brother. He was in the Marine Corps and served in Korea, and then he wanted to fly, so he went into the Army. And that's a picture of him in Vietnam when he was flying advisors in the beginning of the war, before the war started.
Okay.
They would fly advisors, and then he came home, and then they put him in the first cabin. He went back to Vietnam. He served 3 tours in Vietnam.
Wow.
The next picture is me when I first went into the Army.
There you go.
That was in '66. I was in during the Vietnam era, but I never got to Vietnam. I came out and I went into the reserves, and I spent the rest of the time in reserves. And I was, I guess, in my late 40s when I wound up going to Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and then I did Operation Provide Comfort.
Oh
my son is now serving, which is the bottom. He's just left for Germany yesterday. He served in Iraq for 15 months.
Wow.
And the other one is a picture of my son-in-law. Both of them are in security. My son's an MP, and my son-in-law is a security policeman.
Tony, that's a wonderful, wonderful tradition that you're carrying on, the legacy, your kids and your son-in-law. That's a lot of years of service right there, Papa. And everybody's healthy. Everybody made it back. No casualties. That's wonderful.
Yeah, no casualties. My oldest brother had a broken arm. He fell off a telephone pole or something.
Well, listen, I broke my leg, and that was right here playing baseball, so I didn't even have to go overseas to do that.
But you were talking about serving on Air Force One. One of my son-in-law's duties, because he's stationed at Andrews Air Force Base,
Yes.
was guarding Air Force One.
Wow.
In the hangar.
That's
Talk
awesome.
about a...
I've been at certain,
Wow.
with my job, I've been at certain airports, international airports in Brazil, and where the where Air Force One comes in, and it's quite an operation when you see that thing land. I mean, listen, everything stops. Everything stops, and that airplane lands, and the way that thing is, the precision, it's really something to watch. And I mean, I've been the last 26 years in an airplane doing my thing, and I imagine what it must be like to be serving the President of the United States on Air Force One. That's got to be pretty heady work.
Yeah, my middle brother, he always wanted to fly, and that's how he went to the Army from the Marine Corps. And then he just flew. They had caribous, and then they did away with the caribous, and they put them in helicopters, and they changed his unit to the first cab.
Yep.
And he wound up in Vietnam again, and then he went back on his own. He volunteered for a third tour. And what I did is mostly in the reserve was, believe it or not, I loaded. I didn't do the loading, but I supervised loading of ships, and that's all I did during the Gulf War. And I loaded bombs in Italy and different places. And we had our unit finally went to. I had men in Iraq and in Turkey and everything. And I was the first sergeant of the unit. So, and then I just retired from the reserves.
Tony, we're so glad you put in the time, and you're healthy, and you're back home. We appreciate your service to our country. Tony, before we let you go, your lucky number?
Make it 31.
31 it is. Thank you once again, Tony, for your call. We appreciate that.
Take care. I enjoy the show, and thank you for the show tonight.
Absolutely.
you're
Please
welcome.
watch us every week. We'll be here Wednesdays at 9 o'clock.
Oh, I have.
Thank you, Tony.
Good.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, Tony.
Bye-bye.
Well,
Want to go to this other?
I think our 15-minute
There we go.
girl is
There
here.
she
Why don't
is.
we go ahead and hand her the microphone?
There we go.
Hi, 15-minute girl. We
Hi,
understand
guys.
you have a story. And before we get to your story, Jeffrey, can we call up a couple of those pictures that we gave you that relate to our 15-minute girl? Do you have those there in studio? Do you have a name on those pictures?
They're going to be numbered. Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
There you
that's
go.
my daddy right there.
Step to the side, if you will, 50. There you go.
Yeah.
Tell us your story, 15-minute
Well,
girl.
my dad enlisted in the service right after Pearl Harbor. He went to flight training school, and from there he was assigned to the 11th Air Force Northwest Theater of Operation and stationed in the Aleutian Islands, which is 90 miles away from Russia. It was really, really rough terrain, freezing cold, and we're really proud of my dad and the service to his country. And Daddy,
Next picture. Next picture.
The next picture, that's of him standing outside of the barracks, doing a little lean there against the wall.
Very good. And was there one more picture there as well, Jeff?
There I'm not sure where this was. I think it was probably some kind
In
of
a rec
club.
center, maybe? In a rec
Yeah. And I think the picture on the wall back there was hand done, but that was a little bit of downtime for them there.
Yeah, he's a young man there in that
Yes.
photograph.
And Daddy, this one's for you. And guys, you have 15 minutes left.
Well, thank you, 15-minute girl. That's a wonderful story. And those wings, you want to tell us a little bit
These are
about?
my dad's pilot wings. He flew the B-26
Marauder.
Martin Marauder, and it was a medium-range bomber.
Very good.
Thanks, Dad.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, 15-minute girl. That's a wonderful.
We have some more emails to read. And also
Yeah,
some
we got to
calls
get
coming in.
busy with
Yes.
these emails because we've got 15 callers. We see you there. Stand on the line
Yeah,
real
please
quick,
stand
and
by.
we're gonna rifle through these. The next photograph comes to us from his Fran Constantino. If you can put that picture up there, Jeffrey. It's titled probably Fran Constant. There it is. Let me read this one real quick. It says, "I'm very proud to submit my hero and war veteran Frank Constantino. This picture was circa 1940 or 41, and Franny says her Bolita number is number 43. We saw Franny today. Franny, we love you. Thank you so much for submitting that picture and for being out there and being one of our biggest supporters. And we got to tell you, that is just a beautiful, beautiful picture. That's a great picture.
Great. Thanks, Fran.
Thank you so much, Franny. The next photograph, Steve?
Okay, this is from Mark Garcia.
What, the next one? The next
actually, yeah, this is actually the B-17 bomber that crashed in May of 1944.
1944.
Right, and that crashed on actually Abdella Street, in the middle of the street, and it one of the pilots died in this crash, and it burned, completely engulfed and burned one of the homes, and the people that were living in the home, they actually helped to with the rescue operation. And it was on approach to Drew Field, which eventually became Tampa International Airport. But it was basically facing towards where the stadium would be sitting now, the Raymond James Stadium. But anyway, that happened 1944.
Can you imagine in the morning you're making your café con leche and you're sitting there and you hear this awful sound and we were talking about this earlier, Steve, real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the people in the neighborhood actually came out and what did they do?
Sure did.
They actually pulled some of the pilots from the wreckage. They saved a couple of the pilots' lives. I mean, that is a huge airplane to just fall out of the sky and in your neighborhood.
Right in the middle of the street. I mean,
in the middle of the morning.
I mean, that'll wake you up.
Sometimes you'll still see when they have the air shows at MacDill, they use the east-west runway at TIA, and that's the runway that this airplane was going to be landing on, the east-west runway. So when you see the airplanes coming in over West Tampa, flying directly due west, that's the flight path that this airplane would have taken before it fell out of the sky. Well, let's do a couple more quick pictures, if you will. Jeffrey, the next one. Steve, you want to read this one?
Yes, this is Mark Garcia. Stephen Mario, thank you for honoring our veterans. Here's a photo of me at the end of the Vietnam War. God bless our troops and God bless America. Mark Garcia. Thank you, Mark. Great picture, by the way.
Next photograph, and then we'll get to our next caller. We see them there waiting. This photograph comes to us from Angelo Ramori. Angelo says, I'm sending you this picture of my 1963 U.S. Air Force maintenance class at Amarillo Air Force Base, Texas. I'm in the bottom row, fourth from the left. A few days after this picture was taken, on November 22nd, 1963, President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. We were in jet engine class when we were advised of the event. Our base went on red alert, and the B-52 bomber squadron launched 6 B-52s armed with nuclear warheads to patrol the northern borders in case of attack from the USSR. Needless to say, it was one of the most emotional days of my life. I was later stationed at Moody Air Force Base, Georgia, where our mission was to train pilots for combat missions in Southeast Asia. The United States Air Force. What you hear overhead is the sound of freedom. Thanks and keep up the good work. Angelo Ramori Jr., United States Air Force, 1963 to 1967. Angelo, thank you so much for submitting that wonderful photograph, your memory, your service to our country. And we're glad you're out there watching. Please watch us every week. We'll be here every Wednesday at 9 o'clock.
That's a great email.
Let's take one of these callers. How many minutes, Jeff?
9.
9 minutes left. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. We've got just a few minutes left.
I'm Wesley Howard Flair. I live here in Lutz.
Thank you, Wesley.
Thanks
Thank you for
Wesley.
calling. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay, I joined the Army when I was about 17 and a half years old. I went to Plant High School.
Okay.
And I went to Camp Blanding,
Mm-hmm.
spent the night there, and I moved up to Georgia. I get up there, they transfer me into the Air Corps.
Okay.
So I took my basic training at Wichita Falls, Texas.
Yes, sir.
And then I left there. I went to Brownsville, Texas. Started taking training as a ball turret gunner on a B-24 Liberator.
Wow, that's good stuff.
That's a good
You
story.
heard the 15-minute girl tell her daddy's story about the B-26, the Marauder, and of course people don't know that, but that 15-minute girl and I, we go home together every night. She's my wife. Anyway, that was my father-in-law, and his stories were pretty interesting as well. I bet you got some great. Wesley, what year did you graduate at Plant?
No, I didn't.
Oh, what year did you have? I'm just trying to figure out your age, Wesley.
I'm 84 now.
There he is, 84 and proud of it.
In good shape.
Well,
Good.
it sure sounds like it by the
yeah.
tone of your voice.
It
Listen,
does.
we're going to be here every week talking about Tampa when you were growing up here and running around the streets of Tampa. So we hope.
Yeah, I listened to you when you talk about the theaters.
Oh, okay, good.
okay.
How did you find us,
Great.
Wesley? Somebody tell you about us?
No, we were just sitting here going through hunting something to listen to.
Channel surfing.
Come across. So
I got to make a confession.
Right
We
now.
talk about this every week. Somebody's finding us every week on the TV, and we're just amazed at that.
That
We're
is
just
great.
amazed. We hope you come back every week. Would you do that, Wes?
Yeah, I do that.
Give us your
Yes.
lucky number, 1 through 75.
1, 2, 75.
1 through, any number between
Right.
1 and 75.
Give me 5.
You got it. Thank you, Wesley.
Thanks for your
Thank you
service,
for your
too,
service
by the
to our
way.
country.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night now. Jeffrey, how many minutes? 6 minutes. Let's go ahead with that next picture because we got a couple more we got to get to. Steve, you want to read this one?
Yes, this is from Edie Strickland. Hi, Mario and Steve. I sent you 2 pictures of my dad, Armando Abreu, 101st Airborne 502 Regiment, 1942. He was almost 23 and this picture was taken, and he had completed paratrooper school. He went on to become an instructor before he was shipped to Europe. Jeff, let's go to the next picture. Great picture, by the way. This here is an article from 1945. He went to Georgia Tech on a sports scholarship playing football, basketball, baseball, and the best part is he was only 5'2" and weighed 135 pounds. He heard the Army was looking for men to join. 1st Paratroopers 101st Airborne Division, Screaming Eagles, and quit college to join up to become a paratrooper. The rest is history. He made his first combat jump behind enemy lines in Normandy on D-Day.
D-Day.
What a story that is. And he was also in the Battle of the Bulge. We were very proud of his service and miss him every day. He passed away 27 years ago. Hugs. And Edie, that is a really, really amazing picture that you had, and amazing story too. And the Battle of the Bulge, that's a very famous battle too, where General McAuliffe answer to the Germans who surrounded Bastogne was nuts. That was his answer, which was great. And Jeff, the next picture I think is that plaque of that.
The Battle of the Bulge.
In fact, there it says right there, nuts at the top. But fascinating.
And if you could flash the next 2 pictures real quick, we want to show all the pictures that were sent to us. This picture comes to us from Carol Sanborn Midkiff. This is Lieutenant Dwayne Sandy Sanborn in the cockpit of his P-51 Mustang. That's the 8th Air Force Fighter Station, England. He's 21 years old, and this is 1943. And in that's a wonderful picture. In the cockpit's open in that picture. And in the next photograph, Carol sends us this picture. Again, this is Lieutenant Colonel. Now, he started as a lieutenant, mind you, and this is Lieutenant Colonel Dwayne Sandy Sanborn. Here he's the 43rd Tactical Fighter Squadron commander with his family at MacDill Air Force Base. And this is June of 1964. That's Carol down there and Steve, her little brother, on the stairs. And that's Lieutenant Colonel Sandy Sanborn. What great photographs. We've just got about 5 minutes left. We've got so much to do. Caller, we see you on the line there. Why don't we do this real quick, Stevie? Let's go ahead and have our lucky number drawing before we forget to do anything else.
There's a lot of numbers here. So.
Caller, stand by. We're going to get to you in just a minute. We've got a couple of real special announcements to make as well. If you want to go back to the photograph of the flag for just a second, Steve. Jeffrey, that's fine. Reach in there, big guy.
Ready.
Pull out a number.
Okay, here it is. That one.
Closest to without going over.
45.
45. The lucky 45 closest to without going over. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's Chris. Chris had lucky number 46. Am I right there? Closest to without going over?
No, actually.
Without going over, right? Franny had 43.
Well, we drew 45, so.
Without going over. So we didn't go over 46. Closest to without going over is Chris. Right?
We drew 45, right? So she went over.
46 is
Okay. But anyway, so.
But math was a good subject for me in high school, so that means Fran is one. Yes, I got the bell rung. I got a bell. I got a bell rung tonight. Franny, you won 2 tickets to the show on Saturday night. Thanks for straightening me up on that, Steve. All right, so let's go ahead and then real quick, Franny, you can pick up those tickets from Steve Areno because they're in his car. real quick before we get off the air. How many minutes we got, Jeffrey? Jeffrey? 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Okay, good.
3 minutes, he says. 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I know. All right, let's do this real
very patient,
quick.
by the way.
Caller, you've been so patient with us. We've got about 3 minutes. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
We'll make it quick. It's Rob calling live from Brandon. How are you?
Hey, Rob. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Hey, definitely. Listen. I'm an old school public access. In fact, I heard Jerry Canner, which
Yeah, Jerry, that was an interesting call.
it's to say the least. Yeah, it's Jerry Canner. He's basically he's a legend there at the public access.
I think I remember him.
We caught your show last week, the Halloween show, and it was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Really good.
much.
From someone who did a show I was back on there back in '03. I mean, you can tell you put a lot of work into it. So
Sure.
just want to say we got a lot of fans out there. I appreciate the show. We're going to watch every Wednesday night.
Oh, Rob, that's
nice.
great to
That's
know.
very
Thank you.
nice.
From a veteran of public access television, thank you. That means a lot to
That's
us.
very powerful.
Definitely. Keep up the good work, you guys.
We appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much.
calling.
All right, bye.
What a great customer.
Oh, that's wonderful. Goosebump time. Goosebump
no.
time. Thank you for setting me straight on that.
Oh, no.
Lucky Bolita number because I couldn't figure it out.
Fran would not have forgave you for that.
No, she wouldn't have. She would never bought lunch again. Okay, here we go. Real quick. 2 minutes. Real quick. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a special show. For those of you out there that are always watching, Johnny Sinchett will be joining us next week of the Sinchett
You're gonna
family.
love this, by the way.
He's got vintage archival rare footage that he's going to be showing, that we're going to be showing next week, about 10 minutes worth of footage. Johnny Sinchett's family created most of, if not all of, the neon signs in the city of Tampa, the decade of the 50s and the 60s. So he's got a video, 8mm video that he shot that's been converted
rare.
to DVD. That's going to be, we're going to be showing that next week. Okay, also, reminder. The Columbia Restaurant Luncheon is December 4th. We're asking anybody out there in TV land, if you'd like to attend, it's a special commemoration for this first year, this first season for the Tampa Native Show. We'd like you to join us. Send us an email at
show@tampanatives.com. Please do.
let us know. We'll send you all the details. December 4th from 11 to 2. Put that on your calendar.
Definitely.
The next day, December 5th, 1 minute to go. December 5th, we're going to be walking 1 mile, proceeds to benefit the MDA. Also, if you'd like to join us, Tampa Natives does a little bit of work with the MDA here locally. Proceeds to stay right here. Please do give us an email, show@tampanatives.com, to let us know. We've had a wonderful show again.
Really
We've got
good.
about 30 seconds to go. We'd like to say that it is an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure for us to do this each and every week. And tonight's show has been very, very special for all the right reasons.
Right. And thanks for everyone's military service out there. We really appreciate all the veterans. And thanks everyone for all your calls and emails too.
To all of our loyal viewers, we want to say thank you. And I guess we got one more picture up there to
this
go
is
before we
Walt
go.
Allen.
This is Walt Allen.
Walt Allen, by the
Walt,
way.
we know you're out there watching. This
Right.
photograph is of one of our favorite viewers, Walt, who served.
He served in the Navy, and he was 1946 is when he got out of the Navy.
Walt, and to
Walt,
everybody else
thanks
out
for your
there,
service.
thank you so much for your service. Salute. Great show.